this was me. What up, y'all? For everyone that is in here. I'm just gonna paint and do some studies today, so don't mind me. You wanna come paint along, do your thing. If not, it's all good. Quick update, that's kind of where I am at the piece right now. I got rid of that little flower thing, piece. I'm gonna put something else in there. I'm probably just gonna make it smaller. But I did it in a lot more kind of surface detail. I'm still kind of figuring out what I want to do with it. But so far that piece is coming along nicely, but I'm not going to work on that today though. Today I just want to do some studies and just kind of hang out and just figure out, try out some brushes and stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So we shall see what's good. Alright, let me move this over. And I don't have any particular goals. I think the goal that I would have with these two photos that I found online, probably just like kind of texture. I think like texture and just overall like edge control. Shoutouts to edge control. So, let's get it. So let's see here. Do you like that? You know what? I'm gonna use this one. No, I'm gonna use this one right here. Cool. I'm just gonna take a little bit of a color sample here, just so I have something to work with. I'm not sure if I really want to have to work that out. I think after I get to that point, I probably don't need to sample anything else. Probably the only thing I really need to sample is like that, which is actually a green, which I didn't know. It's like a greenish blue. And then that is like a very light color, which I wouldn't have guessed, to be honest. So these are like very interesting values that I can use. But with that though, I will probably introduce my own value of like a darker red. If the goal was color, then I would probably be sitting here trying to like really figure out like the actual color of it, but I don't think that's the goal today. So I do need to figure out another value here. I always suck at trees, so this is a good opportunity for me to practice that. Keep this brush big. In there. We're kind of painting trees at the feedback the other day, so I kind of liked where that was going. Like there's some darker, super dark reds in there. Curve that off. I don't need it to be exact, but I do want to get the essence of the tree, which is really hard to do. So actually, let's move this upward a little bit. There we go. At this point, I could just use the line tool. Oh, I need to make it a little bigger than that. Yeah. At that point, I just need noise. Trees are hard. Okay. Let's see if I can get a dark value in there. Maybe a warmer red. Saturated, darker. There's a lot of like interesting tones going on in there. There you go. No, not that. So I don't know if I want to be that, but there is an interesting kind of color going on in there. I'm not supposed to be focusing on color, but hold on a second, moving my screen. It's worth noting. And this, I probably need to make it darker. Alright, let me find a better color. Nope, that's not it. Nope, nope. Alright, maybe that's it. Towards that bottom though, I just need to be a little more desaturated, a little more towards the orange. There you go, that looks better. Cool. Now maybe I can backpack off of that. Just kind of mess with some texture there. I know John Park has some interesting brushes here, just in general. I'm kind of interested in testing out. What does that one do? What about this one? Oh, that's interesting actually. Oh, that's very interesting. Oh, there's something there. I don't know if that's for the one I want. A nice little old school rake brush for the Craig Mullins people. Oh, I like this one. Yeah, this one's good. Which one's this one? Is it flat? Rotation. Ooh, he has it on rotation. Even better. It's very interesting. Press it hard. Well, actually, I kind of like this one because it's more graphic. So I wonder if I can just take that and just put it on a rotation. Same thing. Let's see if that works better. Yep, I like that one. Now we're talking. I don't know why I like it, to be honest, but there is this nice kind of like edge quality to it, which now makes me kind of want to figure out a texture erase, which that's always cool. You can kind of get that stuff in there. It kind of feels like flowers almost or something. But I do not like the rotation right now because there's no angle jitter. So that's got to have a rotation instead. Why is it still being weird? Here's the question. Angle jitter. There you go. Let's turn that off. Oh no, I need it on. Darn it. That's what causes the scatterness of it. So I guess I can kind of paint it back and then it's kind of erase. But that is creating interesting texture. I wonder if I can just pick a different brush though. Texture, rotation. Oh, that's the brushes. There you go. I heard something. Someone die?
Sorry.
I heard like a poof, like someone just got dropped.
No, I was chewing on ice.
Oh, you were chewing on ice. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just making sure. No, it sounded like someone just got like shot like in the back of the head, and I was like, oh.
Oh.
Witnessed a murder.
I hope not.
All right. Cool. What's up, man? How are you?
Not too bad. How are you?
Good. Just trying out some brushes, doing some studies, man. Just chilling.
Did you finish the memory thing?
Yeah. So I haven't finished it quite yet. I'm about right here. It's probably a lag on your screen, but I'll let it wait for a second. But I'm not done yet. I'm actually kind of taking my time with it, actually. But that's where the colors are. And I just gotta put some white water, some bubbles in there, and kind of make it look graphic and stuff. And then I'll probably have the mermaid like right there, or I was either gonna do that or do like a submarine or something like that. But I just want something to kind of where I drew it in here, I think. Where is it? No, where'd I put it? Yeah, I want something kind of flowing in this direction to kind of the piece. So probably either fish or like a submarine, something. Because I want to be able to create like the white water, like the bubbles and stuff to kind of follow it to create a nice flow. So that's the game plan. But today is kind of just a study day. I want to take a break from that today. Just kind of relax and do something that I would normally do, which would usually be studies. I'm just trying to kind of exploring some of these brushes a little bit here. Here's some of John Park's brushes, and I'm kind of just exploring a little bit with texture and kind of figuring out like what I like about it and don't like about these.
Oh, you got his brushes?
Yeah, from his Gumroad. Like I think he gives them out for free anyway. But his brushes have always been since he kind of started doing like Gumroad tutorials. I felt like his brushes kind of usually mimic the way that I want my stuff to look anyway, just in general. So I'm just kind of trying them out. The problem is that he has a bunch of them, and like unless I like remember all of them, I'm gonna like it's kind of impossible to like really know. So I'm just kind of doing a little test run here and doing some stuff and painting trees, because trees in general are just like a bitch to paint.
Don't most people use like preset brushes for those anyway?
You can, but you probably would understand the pros and cons that come with using like a preset brush for anything. Like the more that you use it, the less unique your work will probably look in the end. So
Yeah, you're probably right.
Double-edged sword, you know. Like if you have to get stuff done, then for sure, like do you. But eventually, when you're doing your own work, you probably would want to avoid it if at all possible. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to explore ways of maybe kind of even simulating the idea of texture and stuff like that without actually using without using like any kind of like photo or something like that. It's kind of the goal here. I don't want to be reliant upon stuff, and plus I already do enough like photo bashing stuff at work in general, so I always try to like to go for the more like traditional kind of painterly stuff.
Everyone says root your art in tradition. Like no one's ever said like go digital only.
Say that one more time.
A lot of the artists that I talk to always say like root your skills and art in tradition, and not the other way around. Like just going straight for like digital,
Yeah. I mean, I would say you could do both. To be honest, like I don't think there's any reason to have a foundation in both at the same time. Just because traditional just hurts more when you fuck up.
Yeah.
That's probably the best thing that you can really get from it is that
For sure.
when you fuck up, it like really hurts you. Like you feel it like in your wallet, like, and in the amount of time that you waste. Yeah. So in that regard, yes, it's great. But at the same time, there's something to be said about what you can learn. You can learn very fast digitally because of that too. Because of the fact that like fucking up doesn't hurt as much. If you do it right, I feel like you could learn a lot quicker because you can just constantly just iterate. You can constantly rapidly like, you know, figure things out. So, you know what I mean? So I think there's definitely like
pros and cons to both.
Pros and cons to both. Like I think I was talking to Michael about this last week that the double-edged sword of doing everything digital is that if you keep making the same mistakes digitally, you become like numb to it, and then you don't learn anything because like the worst thing that can happen, right, is you just start a new file versus like you wasting like paint and, you know, time, money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's good and it's bad because then you kind of take it for granted. Like I had told Michael, I was like, imagine if you like every time like you didn't do like proper anatomy and like, you know, you didn't do it, that like someone like came through in the computer and like punched you in the face. Like you would probably like wouldn't do it
really
again.
Fast. Yeah, you learn really fast.
Yeah, you learn really fast, right? It's called like, I call it like the boxing theory. When I used to box, when I get hit in the face, it's a very self-correcting thing. You don't want it to happen again, so you immediately figure out a solution. If people had the same resolve every time they made a mistake with like their anatomy or like perspective, something like that, you would probably learn pretty quickly. But because there's no repercussion, really, like a physical repercussion, you kind of just keep making the same mistake. It can happen. So I think that's where the double-edged sword can happen. Versus if every time I forgot to put a grid down and someone came and like slapped me in the face, like I definitely would be like, okay, I should probably like put a grid down.
Right. So I was watching Carl Nassie's figure drawing stuff. That dude is amazing.
Oh
and
yeah.
He talks about like having bad drawings. He's like, just keep working at it, own it. That way you won't do the same thing next time.
Oh yeah, for sure. Someone said Kai Bach. Hey, what's up, man? What's going on? Yeah, I think the more you kind of learn to own your bad paintings and learn from your mistakes, the faster you will learn. But yeah, I think it can be detrimental though, especially if you don't try to learn from your mistakes as fast as possible. Because again, it's very, very easy to get like really complacent, and so you kind of just keep. And that's the problem too. Is like the undo button is obviously like a great tool, but that could also be a double-edged sword too, because then you kind of just keep like, you know, keep making a stroke and then undo, you know, keep making a stroke and then undo, you know, until you kind of really have to sit down and kind of go, okay, why am I making the same mistake over and over again, you know? So you start to figure out ways to like be more efficient with your strokes, as opposed to kind of just guessing and hoping that you get it right, you know what I mean? So there's there's a pro and con for everything.
Yeah, I remember when I bought a sketchbook, started sketching in the sketchbook. The first time I put down was wrong, and I reached for my keyboard.
Oh yeah, I do that sometimes in life drawing. I'll make like the motion with my finger, and then I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. It's not. Yeah. It's not real.
It's so funny. It's so funny when I do that.
Yeah, I'm definitely not. You're definitely not the only one. I do that totally all the time too. And then I always look around too, like, did anyone see that? And then I'm like, all right. Apparently no one saw it.
Yeah.
Or probably someone did see it, but just didn't want to say anything to not make me feel embarrassed. And I appreciate that person. If they did in fact see it. So you working on anything? What are you working on?
Figure drawing.
There you go.
Fundamentals. Neglected those for like a couple months.
Say that one more time?
I neglected figure drawing for like a couple months.
Yeah. If you can always find a way to stay consistent with it, I think it will pay big dividends. Even in like other things that are not related, like like environments and props, like figure drawing is always really good thing to practice.
Well, I just have a tendency of not going back to things like I suck at.
Oh yeah.
It's not a good way to deal with the problem.
Hold on a second. My dog is freaking out. Hold on. Alright, and we're back. The dog is freaking out. Go sit down. Go. Relax. I don't know, someone's knocking on the door. Hey, don't even think about it. Go sit. Next little smaller bark. They'll go. He tries to disobey me some more. You went slick, Toby. Relax. Okay, someone, Kaba said, is this a study for upcoming painting? Possibly. I just try to pick a subject matter that I want to, practice, and then I will kind of just go for it and see what happens. So sometimes I'll try to do a direct study, or sometimes I'll just kind of look at something and kind of just rip off of it. Like, it really just depends. Like how I want to go about it. But this in particular, no. Like, I'm kind of just exploring some brushes and just kind of seeing what I like and what I don't like about some of the brushes, and just seeing what I can probably, include in my stuff. Toby, stop it. Just trying to see what I can include in my work. Because every once in a while, I kind of go through like every month and a half, I'll go through like a purge of my brushes, And I'll kind of just see which ones kind of still make the cut, which ones still are still useful to me. Because I'm always kind of changing how I want to paint something, or how I want to or how I want to be more efficient, or how I want to approach a painting. All that kind of stuff always changes. And it should be constantly changing too. So I love to do these little things right here. It's little snippets of something. I think it's always cool. So life drawing. I'll even do some life drawing painting too. I have some reference folders for it. I try to do it with my friends. They do it on the weekdays. Sometimes in the morning they'll do a little life drawing session. They always invite me, but I can't always make it. But I try to.
What time are the life drawing sessions?
They do it at it's digital, by the way. We do a Google Hangout, but we do it I think around 10 o'clock usually. So it's hard because sometimes I'm either I'm on the way to work, or I'm busy at work. Days that I work from home, I'll try to do it before I start my work for the day, but then sometimes I'm just already kind of in the groove of work, or somebody did something right away, so I don't really have time to kind of warm up. But in a perfect world, I would try to warm up as much as possible, so that way I could just kind of get in the groove. You know what I mean? It's like before you work out, a little warm up. It's kind of the same thing. I'm gonna merge this down. Why not? See if I can put some red in the shadows. Some red.
I wanted to ask,
That's good.
as a game artist, do you have to get to work at a certain time, or is it whenever you show up?
Well, in my case, is very much not the norm. So, it depends where you work. Some places have core hours of when they expect you to be at work. So, our place kind of has core hours because of where our place is located, and there's a lot of traffic. I have the ability to kind of work from home a couple days out of the week. So that kind of makes my life a lot easier, because it takes me an hour and a half to get to work normally, so it's kind of a long time, where if I were to go to work every day, and drive there, that means I'd be wasting 18 hours almost, back and forth.
Yeah,
I'd waste 3 hours a day, so 3 times 3 times 5, at least 15 hours a day. So I can get more work by just stay home, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I heard LA traffic is horrible.
Yeah, I'm in the Bay Area, and Bay Area, it's horrible because there's a bridge involved. So anytime you involve a bridge, like, you're just asking for problems. So luckily, a lot of people do have the ability to work from home, and they're pretty cool about it. Like, as long as you get your work done, like, it's totally fine. And so I never miss a deadline. I'm always pretty upfront about where I am and, you know, where I'm gonna be. And usually, like, if they message me and I'm not on my computer because I'm walking my dog or something like that, and I'll usually get back to someone within like 10 minutes, something like that. So, but when I do go to work, you know, usually I'll get there around like 10:30, maybe a little bit earlier. Just depends on the traffic, just because, like, you know what I mean. So the only way that, like, I'll make sure that I'm there on a certain time is if I know that there's like a meeting that I have to be there for. You know what I mean? So in that regard, like, I will always make sure that I am on time. But some people come in like after lunch, and that's totally okay. And they stay late. So it really just depends on, like, what your kind of agreed schedule is, like, with your director, and as long as you're okay with that, and that's fine. But again, mine's a very outlier situation because I have a super cool art director. So, like, if I didn't, then guaranteed I probably wouldn't be so lucky, right? They'd be like, nah, just come in, dude. You know what I mean? So,
right.
So I have had some directors where, like, you know, they're like, get your ass in here, like, you know, don't take long breaks and get to work and be here on this time. And if you're not, then I'm gonna be mad. I have had some people that are like, hey, we trust you, like, get your work done. And if usually you just kind of, you have to establish it when you get the job. So, like, until they feel like I'm like abusing that request to, like, work from home, then I think that's when they'll probably change. But so far I haven't, to my knowledge. Like, I haven't missed a deadline. I'm pretty fast in general. So whatever someone needs, I try my best to get it done. So.
Get it.
But again, in most cases, though, you definitely have to show work on time, and it kind of sucks. But I feel like that norm is slowly kind of changing, though, just because people are finding out, like, you don't have to be there, like, all the time. People find out to be more efficient, you know what I mean, when you're, like, not there every day. Like, you kind of, like, I find it nice because I don't like meetings. Sometimes I don't want to talk to anybody. Like, I don't want to, you know what I mean? Sometimes, like, when you get to work, you have to kind of be, like, political and, like, hey, how's it going? And this and that, this and that. Well, sometimes, like, I don't want to talk to anybody, you know? Like, not for any particular reason, just sometimes I'm just like, you know what? I just want to be left alone so that I can, like, just do work, you know? And be really efficient. And that's the way it works. And my computer's, like, faster, too, at work. I mean, at home. It's like my own personal computer. So then I have my own setup, I have my own keyboard, like, you know what I mean? I have my monitors the way I like it, you know what I mean? It's like, it just feels like nicer. So then you're kind of like, yo, let me just work from home because I'll be more efficient for the company. So yeah, you gotta find it. That's why, like, finding a company that works for you is, like, totally, like, important. Like, when you interview for a job, it's more or less just as much like an interview for them as it is for you. Because you got to figure out, like, if you
fit the company.
If you fit the company, because sometimes, like, it may not even be whether it's your skill or not. It could just be whether you're a culture fit. You know what I mean? Like, you may not be a good culture fit. And I hate that word culture, but, like, sometimes,
it's
like,
there.
You know what I mean?
There.
Like,
you can't escape it.
Yeah, you can't escape that. Like, for example, like, our culture at work is very kind of outgoing. It's like, you know, we work on sports games and we're kind of always out and about, or, like, watching, like, WWE. Like, in my area, they watch, like, WWE all the time. We're always watching soccer or, like, baseball games. You know, we're always, like, very kind of outdoorsy kind of company. Like, we're very, very active. And so if you're kind of very quiet and to yourself, it may not work for you. You know what I mean? Because just because of how, like, our company is, it's a very kind of outgoing thing. So you gotta find out where you fit, like, your personality and how you work with others. I think is important.
Yeah.
Someone asked, "Are you still working on the RPG game?" Yes. Well, actually, yes and no. So John, like, kind of revamped like everything in that game, so I couldn't really do anything for the past like couple of years, just because he kind of changed the engine and changed exactly how we're gonna do stuff. So until he like fixes all that, I can't really. I've been kind of on a hiatus actually. So I talk to him every once in a while, and kind of see where he's at. I'm like, hey, you alive? And then he'll be like, yeah, I'm alive. I'm still working on it. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, when you're ready to go, let me know. So hopefully that will ramp up at some point in time. I just don't know. It's almost been like 3 years now. But he does have every intention of getting that back together. I just don't know when. So hopefully that answers your question.
Are you talking about that strategy game?
Yeah, the strategy game. Yeah. Because I want to work on it because that was really fun actually. And I did work on it. It's just that he's a very perfectionist, and that's kind of the double-edged sword, right? Because like you work on something, and then halfway through you're like, I can make it better, and then you make it better, and then you're like, wait, I can make this even better, and then you know what I mean? Next thing you know, like 3 years go by, and you're like, oh shit,
Yeah.
I haven't really done anything. So I keep iterating on something, so that can be kind of dangerous in itself. But he still works on it. I know that for a fact. I know he's like still dedicated. He still freaking lives and dreams that. So he will die before he finishes making that game. Like he will die making that game, and he'll die proudly. So he's definitely dedicated. I like it.
Jeez.
He's I mean, that's what you want. I mean, you want passion, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so he's team Liege all day, and I respect that. I mean, he had a very cozy life before. I mean, he's working in finance, he's making good money, so he pretty much like forego all of that to work on a game that he thought he could do. You know? So I give him mad props. I don't know if I could do that.
That's what I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was working for Goldman Sachs for like 4 years.
Yep. There you go. I don't know if I could be you, man. I'd be like, yep, give me that money. But again, money isn't everything, right? It's like...
It helps.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, if I was just an average working Joe and trying to do this in the environment that I'm doing, I probably wouldn't make it, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be too worried about paying bills than, like, you know, taking art classes.
Mm-hmm. There you go. At least you're honest about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no reason to hide that.
No, I mean, there's I mean, everyone knows the situation. Everyone knows what they're capable of handling. They're not capable of handling. So, yeah, it's good that you admit that and then you create a solution for that. You know what I mean? So, that's good.
Yeah, and I think learning concept art was like the only investment so far that I'm actually losing money in.
Yeah, there you go. It's a bad bet apparently. You know.
Yeah, because like it takes so long for that journey, even though you have the right answer, but the solution doesn't come out right, quote unquote right. You know what I mean? Like you know what you have to do, but even when you do it, it doesn't always come out right because with art you have to practice to get it right. It's not math science.
Yeah, you know what good art looks like, and so you know that your art isn't quite there yet.
Yeah.
To kind of consider it like, oh, this is good art, and so then you're kind of just like, all right, well, I have to keep going until I get to a point where I look at it and I go, oh, you know, that's that's good, and yeah, that can. Who knows how long that's gonna take you? You know what I mean? Like,
That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like when I went through that phase of just kind of never being satisfied and being like, when am I going to get to a point where like it doesn't feel like I suck? I kind of just realized that you just put your head down, you just work, and you try not to think about like the timing of it, and you kind of just wait. You kind of just go until one day someone kind of looks at your work and goes, hey, like, you know, what are you doing right now? Like, what are you up to? What is your, you know, what are you looking to do? And then once that happens, then you're kind of like, oh shit, like someone's like asking me, someone cares about like what I'm up to. And that's a very good feeling, but I also try not to like put too much emphasis or like self-worth on it, I guess. That makes sense too.
Kind of.
Like I used to think like, oh, okay, like until like, you know, I get a job or something like that, then like I'm not worth shit, you know. It's a very self-deprecating kind of thing, but
that's more like a reality though.
it isn't a way, but like I would say success comes in many different forms. And so you have to find out what success means to you. I think as we get older and like as like stuff changes, we used to kind of look at success as like, unless you're working at like these 3 different companies, you know, you're not like a concept artist, I guess. And so, or you're not important, or you're not like, unless you're working on like these movies or this video game or this company, you know what I mean? Like, it's like I don't feel like I'm like worth it. I don't feel like I'm, you know, I'm important enough or that kind of thing. I think that slowly is changing. I think people are finding more and more new avenues to like to do what they want to do and make a living off of it.
Oh, yeah, you too.
You know what I mean? Like you know, AJ was working at like you know, big companies before, but now he's kind of just full-time freelancing and kind of just teaching, and he finds that kind of more fulfilling right now. And so it's like, before that was, you know, that wouldn't really be the case. Like, unless you're working at like Blizzard or all these other places, like, oh, you're not really doing anything. Even streaming is like kind of a thing. Like Ross Tran, I think, is a good example, where like he's really good and he could easily like work for a company, and I'm sure he probably does freelance here and there, but his main thing is like streaming, and it makes him happy. And so to me, that's a very successful like story, because you are just doing what you want. Paul Turnquist, he kind of quit concept art, and he became like an EMT, and that's what he does now. But he does art on the side, and I would even say that his art has even improved since he didn't like, now that it's not like a, now it became a hobby for him again. Like his art, like there's no pressure for him, he just does it. And so that's kind of success as well, to me, in my opinion, because now he's just kind of like, I just do art because I want to, not because I have to survive off of it. So that to me is successful as well. Like, it really just depends again on what you're aiming for in terms of success. Like, what do you define as success? And I think that will always come and change. That will always like, what you define as success and what you want will always evolve over time. So yeah, so I think I feel that way, where I was like, oh, you know, if I'm not doing this, then I suck, you know. But over time, I've learned to just be more happy with like what I'm doing. Like, I'm not working at some crazy AAA company, but what I define as success is the ability to kind of do work with cool people, and then like go and hang out with my wife and my dog, who's, where the fuck is he actually? Oh no, he's right there. Okay, cool. Never mind. It's like, oh shit, I lost my dog. You know what I mean? Like, success can and will change, and who knows? Maybe eventually that will like change, and I'll be like, you know what? I need to like define myself and be at like some certain company. But until then, you know, like, I'm chilling. So a company, so like that to me was like a very important selling when I took my recent job, because I was like, hey, what's important to me is like family and work-life balance, you know? I want to be able to like have a life and still do good work for you guys and still do my thing. And they were like, well, you can do all that here, you know, we'll let you do these things, and as long as you do this, this, and this, you know, we're cool. And so like that to me is a good fit, and I'm happy with that. So finding like personal happiness is like really, really important. And I think more and more people are finding that you don't need to work at a bigger company just because there are so many things going on. There's so many like mobile things. Like you can make your own company, you can make your own game, like with nobody, and be successful. Like you don't like people are finding more and more ways to be more self sufficient. Like do your own thing. Like with all like I think didn't Blender just get like a donation by like somebody?
Epic, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's like that's pretty cool because like it's a free program, meaning that like they kind of want you to like do your own thing. That's what I assume that's probably what the move is. It's like they want people to be more independent and to create their own shit. I think that's pretty cool.
I had a short debate with Adrian about that.
What was your take on it?
So like people think open source project can be owned, but it can't. There's like 3 different ways to do that. So I think like for me, I think Epic doing that is more of like a business move eventually to acquire Blender, which it would be a smart move, you know, your own 3D package plus your own engine.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a good move, you know. And AJ and Michael was like, "Oh yeah, you hate Epic so much. Every time they do something, you just make it a comment about it." And I just said, "No, I meant, no.
So guys,
It's just."
There you go, the fan himself.
I was just like,
"What's up, Mike?
like,
Always talking shit, dude, over here."
Yeah, and I'm like, it's not
the
that.
fuck you say, nigga? The fuck?
It's not that I was saying that it was a, you know, like a snide thing. It was just that I think it's a good move for them.
Yeah.
Talking
to
about
have
the
a
Epic
3D
shit?
tag. Yeah, like I think it's a good move for them if they do it. There's no downside to it.
There's a downside.
What's
Bad
that?
PR, more management of some stuff that they don't necessarily need to, because
Please,
like
they already
they've
have
stated-
like a
listen,
ton of
there's-
bad PR.
let me make a point.
Okay.
Okay, Mike.
Countering what you're saying, man. So it's not within their interest to own Blender. Not everyone wants to own everyone. Okay, they already have one of the most successful and profitable softwares that exists. The biggest, best-selling, or most used game engine, Unreal. Okay, there's no necessary need for them to own Blender. And if they did own Blender, and it remained free, what's the benefit for them? Right? And
Well,
Blender, Ton has said, no matter what, Blender will always be free. So it's not within his interest to ever sell it or to make it something that was purchasable.
But at the same time, people said it before, like I will never sell out.
Right.
And then
Okay. But
some
Ton,
money comes
you guys
through.
know the history of Blender? Like, Ton has had many opportunities to sell out, and he never did. So why would he do it now?
You don't have to worry about that because like even if Epic
No.
owns them, they don't have to like make money off of it because they make money off of the engine. So they can just bundle it together, and the Blender part would still be free. It would just be paying for the engine, right? So it's still a good
They could
business
already
move,
do
even
that.
if they do
I'm
that.
saying. Listen,
They
they
could,
could already
they haven't.
listen.
But they haven't.
Right. Okay. They could already do that because it's open source and you can build your own version of Blender. If Unreal was interested in that, they could do that. Now, to your point, this could be a step in that direction because on Blender Today, which is like a weekly live stream they do where they talk about what's going on with Blender, Ton was on there talking about that money and what it was specifically for. So they were Blender was in talks with Unreal, or sorry, the guys from Epic, because he's friends with Tom. What's his name? Tom Sweeney.
Tim Sweeney.
Tim Sweeney. He talks to Tim Sweeney,
Mm-hmm.
and he likes him. And
Okay.
pretty much they gave Blender the money, no strings attached. But the pitch that Blender gave was, if you give us this grant, then what we can do is improve our code on like the baseline.
Okay.
And then he explained why that matters, and I guess it wouldn't make sense unless we're like coders, really. But essentially, Blender when it was built was just by Ton by himself, so it was built on bad code technically, and it's been just jumbled code since the beginning. Blender 2.80 is like the first time they've tried to clean up their code and look at the big difference that it made.
That makes sense.
And they have a 3-year what's that word you use when you have a roadmap? They have a 3-year roadmap with that money specifically on how they're going to standardize their code, and obviously there's benefits to performance and future expandability and all that. But one of the biggest benefits is that if they standardize the code, then more developers from different software packages would have a better understanding of picking up Blender and making their own stuff with it, like code-wise, like building. So, for example, if Unreal had an interest in building their own version of Blender because it's open source, well, if in 3 years the code is all standardized, then their guys that work on Unreal could pick up Blender and better understand how to implement that shit. Right now, the compatibility is really bad if they wanted to do that specific thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. But
So if you want to look at like an interest, that's the closest thing I can think of, like it being within their interest to invest in Blender, because then they can go in 3 years when that code is all cleaned up and say, cool, now we're gonna take a fork of Blender and build Blunreal or something. I don't know.
they could do that. They could do
It's
that.
Unrealder.
Yeah,
Unrender.
Yeah, I'm
Unrealder.
just saying, like, it's a good business move if they do take over Blender. It's a
But
good
it's also-
business move. And when they do take it over, they can completely revoke the open source license. Like they could.
Well,
do
they
that.
wouldn't take it over. Like, but
I'm
my
just
whole
saying,
argument is
like,
that they don't
if-
have to.
Yeah, I know that's your whole argument, but I'm saying, like, if they are interested in taking over, they could do that.
I understand that you're saying that, but I'm saying
And
And I
I
said
think
this in the
that's the
chat.
direction they're going.
that's a bad
I-
faith comment. Like you're assuming bad faith. You're assuming the worst. You know what I mean?
Is he though?
No,
I mean,
no,
he's just saying that the possibility
really.
is there. Should
Yeah,
it
it's just
happen?
it's just a good business move for them. It's not that I'm saying they do that. That's
You don't
bad.
think they get a bunch of negative PR for doing that?
They already have a bunch of negative PR.
Not
They don't
from
care.
the industry. Only a couple of gamers. Like the fuck.
I think you're both on
People
the
aren't
same page.
boycotting
You're,
the
you're,
use
you're
of
both
Unreal
saying it's a good idea. He's just saying that it's a good move for them because it benefits everybody. And if the ability, if something goes wrong, they could technically acquire it. I'm not saying they're going to do that, but it is like a possibility should they ever want to go that route. Which obviously, right now, looking at it, doesn't seem like a very good idea. But it is nice to know that you have that possibility. You know, should you?
Okay.
need
Well,
to do
here's
it.
another thing that might ease your worry a little bit. But since it's a grant, they don't own any stock options. So Blender is not a publicly traded company because it's an open source nonprofit. So
Yeah.
they don't have any leverage after giving them that money.
Yeah, I know
You know what
that.
I'm saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't
Well,
change the fact that
But
it could
that
go
would
that
make
way.
me. That would make. Well, I'm saying, to your point, that would make me a little more nervous about that kind of a thing. If, let's say, they invest that much money, and then all of a sudden they have like 30% shares and a seat on the board of future software changes.
I understand Blender is open source. Like, there's no confusion about that, but it doesn't change the fact that there are ways to acquire open source projects.
Well,
Yeah. It kind of
Really
gets your
just-
foot in the door essentially. Like if they were to
I
go that
guess.
route,
Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with
you,
that.
you can tell me, told you so, if that shit happens, and I'll own up to it. But I really doubt this is the direction this shit's going.
Watch next
Oh,
week.
yeah.
They're buying
I don't think I would care in a few years. So there'd be no reason for me to tell you like I told you so. I mean, I might if you remind me.
The closest thing that I can see happening is that, which is kind of ironic, but they could remove Blender or even just also put it on the Unreal Store if they start letting people put software, because Blender's on Steam as well.
Oh yeah.
Right now they're not going to do that. Right now they're trying to gain market share for like gaming storefronts, so they're not going to try to worry about like softwares and whatnot. They're just going to keep staying with like exclusivity for games.
Yeah, I get that.
That would be cool. I picked a very good time to take that damn class. It seems like.
The Blender class?
Yeah, I'm taking that class with
Shit's
Von
popping
Ling.
off, dude.
With Von Ling.
Yeah, he's gonna
Next
teach
Tuesday it starts. I actually need to probably hit you up actually on this weekend.
you. I keep telling you, man, I don't know too much. So, you hit me up, I'll tell you what I do know, but I'm not no
Yeah.
Blender guru.
Well, I'm probably just gonna. I mean, I'm just gonna get the thing installed, get everything
If
going.
anything, once you go in a couple of weeks, I'm about to be hitting you up. Be like,
Maybe I'll show you what I know. But yeah, it's just funny that I signed up for that class and
see
then
how the
it-
class is.
signed
'Cause
up
I
for that
want to
cla-
take it at some point.
Oh yeah. I'll definitely take some notes and let you know how it goes. But
I
yeah,
was
it's just funny
wondering
that I
if you-
took that
what's
class
his
and then
teaching
now.
style?
What's up?
I'm mostly curious, like, what's his teaching style? Because I watched a like hour-long thing where he's going over his students' work, and it sounds like he has like an assignment every week for 7 weeks or something.
Yeah, that's
But
what it seems
does he
like.
do like does he have like pre-recorded examples, or
I
does
have
he
no
just
clue,
like tell
dude.
you make a thing
I
and
don't
go?
start until I don't start till Tuesday, so I'll let you
Yeah,
know.
like that's what I'm most interested in.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just cool that I signed up for it, and then all the stuff with Blender's been happening, which makes it seem like it's going
Yeah.
to be more and more like a viable option for everybody that wants to get into 3D stuff. So yeah, it's like kind of a
Let me
good
tell you
timing,
some
I
of the
guess.
other new shit they're talking about. So in that same live stream, Ton is not very good at keeping his mouth shut. I would assume. So he like probably leaked a bunch of shit that he shouldn't have talked about. But one of the things they're working on is getting on that Pablo guy on
Pablo?
on yeah, there's a guy named Pablo DeBarro or something like that, and he's been working on a bunch of sculpting features for Blender like on his own. And now that they got this grant, they're in negotiations with him to bring him on the team, which would be pretty big because they want to make some big leaps and start gunning for ZBrush with Blender. And they've also said that they don't want to be a specialty software because they think that if you have a ton of money and you're doing specialty, no one's gonna be able to compete with you. That's open source. So what their goal is to have a little of everything and do it really, really well. So they've even talked about like CAD tools, which would be kind of interesting to have in that kind of a package. They already have things like in the scope branch they're working on voxel measure. So they have voxelation capabilities, shit that can rival 3D Coat possibly in the future. They're working on everything nodes, so they're making every single thing in the software able to be controlled by nodes. Everything down to animations, particle systems, sculpting, the brushes that you use for sculpting, actually being able to do procedural modeling. So this is where they start gunning for Houdini. There's a lot of potential here. And then he also mentioned that in about 2 weeks we're going to get a couple of different announcements. One of them was something about the RTX cards probably getting some support finally.
For ray tracing?
Yeah. So he said in about 2 weeks we'll hear about that, and then I think he said even 2 more big companies are about to announce their money that they're about to throw into Blender. So it's not going to stop with Unreal, I guess. We could see like Microsoft throw in like another mill. You know what I mean?
That'd be nice. So that just means there's more contenders that are interested in things outside of Zebra.
Autodesk needs to get their shit together, bro.
Maya.
The Foundry as well.
Adobe. I think Adobe too.
Modo.
Yeah, Modo. That's what I'm talking about. The Foundry, Modo.
Yeah.
Modo is like 2K. Ain't nobody paying $2,000 for your software. Everyone's finding that shit on CG Peers.
CG Peers. Dude,
Let's keep it real.
you can't be talking that stuff. It's illegal out here.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Codenames.
Yeah.
Codenames.
Don't
Dude,
talk
man,
about
you gonna be
that.
banned out here talking about fucking pirating and shit?
Hey, it's facts.
Don't worry.
people do.
It's people
Everybody
have been
knows.
pirating my shit for years on that site. It is what it is.
Everybody knows. It is what it is. But then people buy the software. But if everyone's going to Blender, and there ain't nothing to buy except for plugins.
People at my work use it now. Actually, some of my UI artists
Oh yeah.
they're like we could get a copy of Maya, but like why
What's
do
the
that if all I gotta do is do like this small little model, of like something, and then just like model it and render it out and paint over it. Like, why would I need to like go to the trouble of like having to talk to like IT and get a copy of like like Maya and like get the licensing and stuff like that when he could just use Blender,
Yeah.
Like, and it's kind of like the more I think about it, I'm like, oh shit, like that actually makes a lot of sense. And so yeah, that's why it just seems like more and more like it's kind of the momentum or like the wave, of everything. I just felt like it's kind of going more in that direction of Blender. So that at that point, I'm kind of like, all right, this current is like definitely going in this direction, and I probably have to start like thinking about where do I sit on whether I want to go against the current or try to ride with it.
Right.
And more, it seems like I need to get on the wave because it seems like I'm about to miss the opportunities here in order to learn something new. So I'm with you. I'm excited to finally like take some time because I'm kind of bad when it comes to like learning on my own. Not learning on my own. It depends what I'm learning, but for 3D, I'm kind of like I've always waited. Like I used to do 3D in like art school. Like, we taught it 3D all the time, but I never really paid attention like when I did it because I was just like, this shit feels super unintuitive and doesn't speak to me. And I was like, and they used to be like, Killen, when are you gonna learn 3D? And I'm like, I'll learn 3D when like it's easy to learn, and when things are like way more intuitive. Like I use the very first versions of ZBrush, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And I was like,
something I'm noticing, like from afar at least, is that there's different ways of going about using the different 3D packages, or like I guess I should say like the workflow. Just like how in painting, there's like all these different workflows and shit. Depending on what your goal is, what you want to get out of your 3D, you can do like very, very high level modeling that's like super clean. Usually this is when like you're trying to have the 3D asset as the final product. But in a lot of the cases, like especially in your case, use case, whatever, you're gonna end up painting on that shit most likely, is my guess. Painting or throwing some photos or whatever. The 3D base isn't going to be your end result, most likely, unless you correct me, and that is what your goal is.
It depends. Like, I remember one time I went to like a Eitan Zana workshop, and he kind of had this theory, and I think I think it might have been him that said this. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this, but he was saying something the idea of kind of 80-20, and he was kind of saying that either he does like 20% modeling and then 80% painting, or he'll do 80% modeling and 20% painting, aka like get as much as you can done in the model so that you're literally just kind of like maybe adding some values, adding some lighting, and you're done, or you're doing a super rough base and then you're bringing in a lot of photos and whatever. For the most part, I've always done like 20% modeling and then like 80% painting. But I want to be able to do 80% modeling and 20% painting. And so the problem with my stuff is that like some modeling features like are just kind of like a pain to use, and they're very time consuming to the point where it doesn't feel like useful to me. And then also rendering is that if I want something to have a render the way that I would like it to be rendered, I have to kind of bring it into a different program. So that's the way the pressure cooker's going off. I'll be right back. I gotta find the pressure cooker thing because it's going off. Oh no, actually never mind. We're good. My wife's making Kahlua pork and she's at boxing, and I hope that going off.
Oh shit, your wife does boxing? That's tight.
Oh yeah, no.
You guys both stay active.
Yeah, I mean we have the bag in my. I have a heavy bag in my garage that I use every once in a while, or I try to use a good amount.
That's tight.
But yeah, I can't beat her up. It's like I gotta come on my A game.
Like shit.
Yeah, I gotta throw. The only way I can fuck her up, so I have a reach on her, so I have a longer reach. Yeah. So longer reach, I win every time. But
how tall are you? How tall are you?
I'm 6 foot exactly, probably exactly 6 foot.
Oh shit, 6 foot.
Yeah,
I didn't expect that.
How tall do you think I was?
I thought you might have been like 5'6".
5'6"? Oh damn. I guess one day you'll meet me.
I've never met you in person, my dude. Like I've seen pictures and I just assumed you're not like the tallest of guys.
Oh yeah, no.
I don't know why I made that assumption. Maybe I saw a picture once and somebody was taller than you.
AJ, I mean AJ is probably right the same. No, I'm taller than AJ.
Yeah, you're taller than AJ if you're 6. I'm 5'11", so you're a little taller than me.
So we're probably on the same height. Like I'm probably exactly like 6 foot if I had to guess.
Oh, if we're gonna count my hair.
Yeah, your hair probably gets you. I mean, yeah.
I'll get that extra inch.
Yeah, I've
been contemplating. Do I just like lie to chicks and say I'm like 6 foot? Like, what do? If I'm like right there, does that make that much of a difference?
Nah, I kind of round up probably too. Like I'm probably like 5'11", probably in the grand scheme of things. But like usually when like people like doctors measure me when I go for a checkup, they're like, oh, 6 foot, and I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm like, that's kind of.
Well, let me get back to that point I was making, so that doesn't get left hanging. So the comparison I'm making here about the different ways of using 3D is that if you look at somebody like Jama, or others that are inspired by the way he works, he'll be very fast and loose with his 3D modeling, and he's only worried about how far can I get it in the shortest amount of time, to where I can start painting on it and get everything I needed out of the 3D. So he doesn't worry about that like perfection shit. And so the way he models, you'll find that he's using things like box cutter, and really pushing that shit to the limits allows him to make fast changes, much faster than others would. He doesn't worry about things like non-destructive workflows as much, because if it only took him 20 minutes to get the main shape he needed, then it's all Gucci, right?
Yeah.
You can just do it again in 20 minutes. Whereas you'll find somebody else that's like really pushing the non-destructive aspects of Blender, which are there, or like unwrapping their models, all that shit. So it depends on, I guess, the workflow, the way you want to treat the software. There's costs and benefits to each one, right?
Yeah, I want to know both. Like, I want to be able to do like some high rendered like Vitali shit, and then I also want to at least be able to like, or some Jan Ursel kind of stuff. Like, I want to be able to do both.
Yeah,
like, again, like you want to be versatile. You want to be able to switch it up to do painterly stuff. You want to be able to do high render stuff. You want to be able to use photos, not use photos, right? So it's just more tools that makes me more versatile. It makes it more adaptable, because you never know when you take on a project, and whatever project you do, right, everything's different each time. Something like using Blender might be a viable option to make your life easier. You know what I mean? So I just want to make sure that I have the ability that I can do that. And again, I want to be able to use a program that allows me to not use that many programs. Like, that's the problem. That's the problem too. Is that like someone will be like, "Yo, we're gonna use Modo, then we're gonna use 3D Coat, and then we're gonna use Octane, then we're gonna use Blender," and I'm like, "Dude, fuck all that. Like, I don't want to learn like
that same thing."
You know what I mean? And so that's one of the reasons too, because it's like, when is there gonna be a program where I can do everything like efficiently, just like one time and like one thing? And so yeah, you could do all this stuff in like Maya for sure, but like the amount of time it would take for a concept artist like isn't worth it. And so now it seems like with Eevee and shit, like all that other stuff, like I'm like, oh shit, like this might be like the thing that like allows me to like do everything in one time. Where like I want for once to like download a 3D program and not have to like upload a bunch of like fucking what do you call those things, like plugins and stuff like that, you know? Like I want something to work right out of the box. That's why I like Photoshop in a way, because like although I use Photoshop, the only thing I need is my brushes. Like after that, I don't need anything else. Like some people have some like crazy stuff, but like I don't need any of that stuff. Like I can
I'd say that kind of also talks to like, what are you relying on? Like in your case, you've gotten to a point where that's what you rely on. Where there are others that do rely on the plugins and shit. Right?
Yeah. And so I want this stuff to be, I want it to be standard. I don't want to have to buy a program. And I guess that's probably a thing too, is that like you can buy like Maya, but then you got to buy like 50 other programs. So then like you're spending more money. So it's like you're already like, I already bought the product. I want the product to just work. But it's like, oh, you bought this and you got to buy like 5 other things to make it work the way you want to. You know what I mean? Like UV unwrapping, you got to buy this. What's up?
Like how many programs do you have to get for like 3D?
Well, I mean, if you're doing UV unwrapping, you can't use the base UV unwrapping. You got to get, I don't know, back in my day it was like Hedis or whatever, or like there's like some cool UV unwrapping tools. If you want to do like better hard surface, it's like faster. I use K-Tools. That's probably outdated. If you want to start using like different rendering software, or want to use like trees or whatever, you got to add in SpeedTree. I mean, it depends what you want to do, but like you always have to customize something, and it would be nice for one time that like whatever I'm like working on, that I could just buy it and then it's all there, you know? Like imagine buying like a PS4 and then you got to buy like everything with it, like you have to buy all this custom stuff in order for it to get the most out of it. Like
that's what makes it interesting that you're like going towards Blender, because a lot of the folks that use it are like praising all the dope plugins that it comes with.
Yeah.
But you can.
So the difference there is that it's free though. It's like
Blender.
Is that the base program is free. So that's different in that way, where it's like, okay, Blender's free, so if I have to pay $20 for something extra, then I don't care, right? It's like it's a luxury now at this point. But if I'm paying like $1,000, if I'm paying like $50 a month for like Adobe, or what do you call that thing? The Maya, right? What was it?
Maya's is like $300 a month.
Autodesk, yeah. If I'm paying like that much money for Autodesk stuff, like, and I still gotta buy like other shit, like why would I want to do that? Like if I get good, if I try out this Blender class and it actually is everything that I think it's gonna be, I'm about to like cancel like my Adobe stuff. So like I'm like, dude, I'm done, right? I'm gonna save money on that. Like if they ever made like a better program of like Photoshop where it's like exactly what I want, like my brushes and everything, but it's like free and whatever. Like I would.
There's a couple. You gotta try them though.
I mean, I've tried a couple. It's still not like the same, but like I wouldn't like. I mean, I love
think
Paint
Art
Tools.
Studio, might be the closest one, right? Oh, but no, I think that's like $30 or something like that.
I mean, it's still cheaper because you're not.
Yeah,
It's not
a
monthly.
monthly.
So until something comes along, you know, I guess it's like capitalism, right? I guess, or like I want something to be like, hey, we're gonna do this better, and you don't have to pay for all this crap. And I'll be like, hell yeah, dude. Like I don't know. So yeah, I'm hoping that if this makes it easier, that I don't have to like use like Marmoset or whatever to like render something out. I don't have to use like another like extra couple of plugins. Then I'm all for that, you know.
Yeah, I feel you.
So that's what I'm hoping for, and it seems like that would be the answer. So.
Well, what's cool is in not too long, Octane is gonna release their own build of Blender with a free version of Octane built into it.
In Blender.
Yeah, that's gonna be the one to get.
Oh shit! See, that's what I'm doing, dude. It's the wild, wild west out here, dog, and like that's what I'm about. I want people to take my money. I want people to earn it. I got money to give, but you got to give me something for it. You know, like it's gotta be worth it. And if that's the case,
I mean, you see like that those guys like Paul Chatterstein or whatever, Jama. You know, I forgot that there's another guy who made like a dope environment tutorial. A lot of these guys are using Octane as their renderer. Because some of the benefits you get with like applying depth maps and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And like just like how the easy use is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen some of that stuff too. I mean, I've used depth maps before in like 3D Code, but yeah, again, like if I can do all that in one, then like I am all for it. I want to be able to express myself like in one program efficiently that I don't have to, you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm hoping for, and it seems like that's going in that direction. So we'll see. And it's a not a really huge investment in terms of like time and money. Like if it doesn't work out, and I'm like, all right, I'll go back to what I'm normally doing. But I saved money up for it, and I was like, all right, why not? Why not? And let's see, I got a couple minutes here, so if there's anyone has any last questions, I'm just doing studies right now, but I think Tuesday nights is going to be like my official timing of when I do stuff. I might start doing stuff later, it depends, like what people's schedules are. But I haven't figured out my second time of streaming, whether I want to do like a Friday or like a Thursday, but the second streaming will be the feedback that I talked about before, where you do like that kind of feedback Friday. Good. So I got to figure out a time that works for people.
So we're doing feedback Friday again?
I'm hoping to bring it back. That's what I'm liking. Like I have some extra time. I don't need like monetary stuff right now. So it's my like whenever I feel like I'm doing like well and I can like chill for a second, that's when I feel like okay, now I can give back and do like some free tutorials, do some free feedback, whatever. So I feel like I'm in that space now. So I just gotta find a time to make it work with what I'm still doing already. So we'll see. We shall see. But my wife just got home and she's making some Kahlua pork. God damn, that shit smells good. And she just got back from boxing, so I know she's gonna want to eat real quick. So I might get ready to go soon if there are no more questions, which it doesn't seem like there is. It's funny that I'm now streaming on that like Picardo website or whatever. And I had no. What's up?
You are or you're not?
No, I am. I created an account. It took like 2 seconds. So I was like, why not? And I think I have like, I don't think it's actually working though. I think it's still sending data. It's not messed up. The thing went off, baby.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, cool. So let me know when dinner's ready, and I'll come up. All right. So yeah, it's still sending data, so I don't think it works actually. But it's funny because it asked me like when I'm creating the account, it's like, do you want to like, are you making hentai? And I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, why is that even? I was like, why is that even like an option to like put? And then you told me you're like, yeah, it's all hentai shit. I was like, oh, all right. Well, if I can break into the hentai community, I mean, hentai, you still gotta have backgrounds for your hentai, right? You know, like. So
I mean, you're right. I mean, you're not wrong.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you still gotta have some of them hentai be having some dope backgrounds, some like Makoto Shinkai level stuff. So like, you still have to like know what you're doing. Did I ever tell you that one time I got offered to like work on a hentai game?
No.
There's I forget the company, but it was a while ago. Like they needed backgrounds for like one of those like interactive games, I guess, you know, like the like choose your own adventure like hentai games, and I guess. They need someone to like draw like a school, like classroom, and then like a mansion or something. And I really wanted to do it, but I think at the time I already had a job. But I really wanted to do it because I thought it'd be really funny to have it in my portfolio. So whenever I go to interview at places, they'll be like, "Yo, that's a really sick environment," and I'll be like, "Yeah, dude, here's the final product," and then just show them the game and be like. Check it out. Like, that's a hentai, bro. So, but that will never happen. But who knows? Maybe one day that opportunity will come again. But yeah, there was a time that was gonna happen, and I really wanted to do it, and I really wanted to go like all out. So that day, some like god level like fucking composition on the hentai, or someone's like watching the hentai and they're like, "Yo, dude, this composition, this lighting is like really good. Like the shape language here is fucking baller." And you'd be like, "That was me, dude." And then it ruins your hentai if you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what goes through my mind when I watch porn.
It may be. That's how you know your porn's dope. Like if you're watching porn and you're like, man, this is like really good cinematography. you're like, oh shit! Like I got distracted. Like, that's how you know. That's my level of how good I want to be. Like I want you to like be watching something like that, and then you're like, you gotta pause it because you're like, dude, I gotta do a study off of this. Screenshot it for the wrong reasons. Those are let's put the under life goals. I also know when I'm gonna do that one.
Alright, I'm gonna take off and watch a movie. You guys ever going?
True. What movie are you gonna go watch?
Probably Endgame.
Endgame?
Avengers. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You're gonna watch the isn't it? Don't they when they make it? It's like a new one, right? Like you can. It's like more footage.
Yeah. I got a copy on my computer.
Oh, dang it. Sorry, my bad. I'm fucking out here incriminating your ass. Alright, never mind.
Alright, you guys have a good one.
Alright, peace.
Yeah, peace out.
Later.
My bad. Just so you know, folks, he's going to the movies. He is not watching it on his computer. He is going to watch it in a movie theater and pay a lot of money.
It's on Netflix now.
Endgame?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Oh wait, not Endgame. I'm lying.
Yeah,
I'm
Infinity
lying.
War.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The fuck?
Infinity War.
I'm thinking of the other one.
Yeah, Infinity War. Yeah, I was gonna say, Endgame's on Netflix. I'm going right now. I'm gonna see you guys later. I'm gonna go watch that shit.
Yeah,
I was gonna watch that end fight scene really quick and be like, Wakanda.
I'm a bad faith propagandist. I was spreading misinformation.
You're a what?
A bad faith propagandist.
A bad faith propagandist? What do you mean? What does that mean?
Spreading misinformation. It's a news thing. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm bad with that. Oh, misinformation. Oh, okay, I get it. You're just spreading some fake news. I see you.
Yeah. There you go.
Wakanda forever.
You got it.
Yeah.
Do you already have a relationship with Vaughn or no?
No, I do not. I do not know that dude.
Oh, wow.
I've like never talked to him, so he could be like, "Who the fuck are you?" And I'll be like, "I'm just another dude, man."
Or, which could happen, maybe he looked at some of your shit as reference one time for Spider-Man. You're wrong.
I doubt it. I forgot he worked on
Doubt it
that.
every time.
It's always funny when like I remember one time I did do that. Like someone sent me reference for like a project I was working on, and my reference was in it, and I was like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, I mean, that's me.
And I was like,
dude. No, what are you talking about? No, that's me, bro.
"What?"
That's you? Nah, dude, no. That's me. No. Like, what are you talking about, dude?
What?
I'm telling you. It's me.
You're so dumb. Yeah, so I haven't met him, but I mean, yeah, I'm excited for the class. Actually, I'm behind. I think I have to like add him to like a Skype or something like that. Like I have to use a Skype,
Oh,
and I have.
That's how AJ does it.
Yeah, I gotta add him. Like I literally have to do all the things that I did for my class back in the day, but now like I'm the student, so it's kind of funny. So now I have to like get my shit together so I can like message him and talk to him. But yeah, I'm gonna keep it pretty low key. I'm not gonna try to like do crazy stuff. I'm just trying to learn, do little assignments here and there. I'm not trying to like stand out or anything. I just want to learn some shit and try it out on my own.
I'm looking at your stream right now. What's your goal with these studies right now?
A couple things. So for these first three, I was just trying to kind of figure out. I was trying out some of John Park's brushes, you know, and trying out some different techniques. So this one I was trying different brushes. This one I was trying one brush, and this one I was trying more of a flat brush. So I was just trying to figure out like what the benefits of each one. So I would take notes honestly if I was doing this, but I'm just not. I'm taking more mental notes. So like one thing I figured out right here is the beauty of doing a fade. Like a fade is like really, really cool here, and I need to probably do more of it. So
You're like each one has a little bit different edge control and stuff.
Yeah, so like I forgot in Color Dynamics there's the fade option, and I forgot like that works like really well when I'm painting something.
Yeah.
Do you ever use it before? Do you ever use fade?
Nope.
Dude, fade is the shit. Like I'm realizing that now. I forgot I even made a brush with the fade on it. So all the fade does is that like it just whatever your background color is, it will fade to that. So like if this is my so it creates that dark,
like based on pen pressure.
Yeah, so if you press hard, it kind of like works out. So essentially, as you kind of look at that, all right, let me get a lighter value here. Actually,
that is a cool way to do it.
Yeah, so this is actually like really, really helpful because if I go like right there, you can kind of see. There you go. All right, you can kind of see like those nice gradations that it kind of creates. And so as I switch the brush, it's always kind of fading to dark, and I can kind of always. It kind of creates that like kind of painterly, like right there, it's great. Like that little edge right there. If I kind of go from up to down, it creates that gradation that I'm looking for, and that looks like sexy to me. So that means
on a regular brush or a mixer brush as well.
What's up?
Can you throw that on a mixer brush and have like the duality?
I have no clue. I just know that when you go to Color Dynamics, you just put it on fade. Mine's at 21%. If I go higher, I'm not sure what the hell it would actually do.
It does give a cool effect. I'm seeing that.
Let's see.
Sure.
Shit. What did I put it on? Fuck. No, I'm regretting this now. So I changed it.
Oh, you got it on video. You can always go back.
I think it's 21. I think I had it on. So I imagine that I used this back in the day, and I forget why. Let me see. So I had it on 21%. Had apply per tip. So yeah, actually it has to be apply per tip. That's what it is. That was something that changed. So depending on if I do it like high or low, so if you do it, so I think that's what it is. If you do it low, the gradation starts really, really early. So if you do it like that, it's like actually 0% actually works really well too, apparently. Oh shit, I don't even like need that. So I find it's actually really good for grass, or to kind of like create that kind of painterly like feel to it. So I really like this whenever I'm painting like
for sure.
bushes or grass. It's like pretty nice. So yeah, I remember that like I had this tool that I haven't used in forever because I haven't had to paint anything like that like in this kind of style. But now I know that if I need to, I have that in the back pocket. And I forget how I found this out in general, but it is what it is. And then now I'm kind of painting these things right here, and I'm not necessarily concerned about the color. I'm just trying to kind of just recreate the essence of the painting in general, and just seeing like what I can get away with, what I can't get away with. So I'm kind of just messing around. Like this is all with one brush, by the way. So I haven't changed the brush yet. So I'm always just kind of figuring out like how do I achieve something in terms of like the overall texture, the mood. So I mean, usually I have like a set goal on what I'm trying to achieve. So right now it's just kind of like just the overall look and feel. If it was color, then I'd be kind of sitting there trying to like, you know, color sample something like that. But right now I'm just kind of looking at it, kind of riffing off of it. Like sometimes I'll do a study and I'll try to like do exactly like this area. But then as I go, it kind of becomes my own a little bit. And when I start filling my own voice to it, then I start to actually do that. So that's kind of what's happening now. It's like I'm adding more and more stuff that I think would be visually interesting. And I'm just kind of just seeing where I can go with it. So I'm kind of using it as like a jump off point, just seeing like how graphic I can make something. So there isn't really like a very like a set like goal right now. For now, I'm just kind of painting and just kind of just seeing what little nuggets of information I can kind of get. Because sometimes I don't always have a set way of doing things. But like as I'm painting this, I'm like, oh, like this, I created this little edge right here, and that was like really cool. And I realized how I did it. And now I'm like, that's actually really like very graphic and very interesting. And I don't see that very often, so I'd want to use that more like in my own work kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, like how do I do that with intention?
Exactly. So now I'm like, oh, okay, like that's actually really cool. So a lot of it is like, oh, I'm kind of making like this kind of like almost like anime, like RPG background. And I've now figured out like a shape that like looks really interesting, where it feels like it's graphic in a way, but yet it kind of reminds me of this one person's work, and I forget his name. I think he works at Riot, and fuck, I can't forget his name. I think his name is Snatty. So Snatty88. Let me find out. Yes. Let me see. Yeah, Ate. Yeah, this guy. Ate. Ate Gallion. I don't know how to say that. I'm fucking terrible. I'm butchering his name. Or his, is it his or her? I have no clue. But anyways, you see his work right here is really, really interesting. And as I kind of made that stroke, it kind of felt like I was hitting stuff like that. Like in these areas.
Oh, yeah, now I see it.
You see what I'm saying? So like,
for sure.
It's actually really, really cool the way that they, the way that he or her made that. And I really like that graphicness right there. So that, it made me think of that. That like, it kind of shows how like subconsciously like looking at probably his or her work on my Instagram, like probably like made that stroke, and now it's like very graphic, and now already what seems to be almost very, very like rough is now like really cool. So, and now what my kind of like flow to it though is I want to put like more lines and then kind of like create a little more kind of lighter gradations there a little bit. So like I would kind of sample and kind of go across. Hold on a second. Go across very, very lightly and kind of create some smaller gradations. And so now I'm like slowly kind of figuring out like my remix to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like now how do I make that mine, or how do I add my own twist to it, or what do I even like about it versus what I don't like about it. So sometimes it's always nice to kind of just paint with no expectations a little bit, but just kind of just be very, very aware of what you're doing, and just, you know, sometimes I'll do this and I have no expectations. Like I won't find anything, and it's like I'll just throw it away. But that's fine though. I don't really care, considering that's only been like an hour. And what I just found here now is that having that grasp, but then putting in that lighter kind of off tone right there is actually really, really cool for creating like a ground plane, and also kind of creating like more visual language in terms of like a movement in the piece. So these little pieces right here, I think are really, really great because they will kind of help establish the ground plane that I'm just decided is right there. And it creates like a really interesting shape. Like I can kind of create floating detail now too.
Do you decide to take something to a more realistic style later on, or from the beginning of your workflow? Like with this, I can see it kind of looking into like a beautiful stylized piece.
Uh-huh.
But could it be adapted to something real? And is this just not the workflow you would have used if that was the goal?
If it was real, I think it'd be the same thing. I think now, instead of like using a brush where I'm using it like, so like normally if I'm painting a branch, right, I would use one brush and then I would just kind of just rotate my, you know, like that, you know what I mean? And go, okay, that's right there. If I was doing something more real, well then now it changes a little bit, because now I have to kind of like make the angle, probably get a little bit more detail, that kind of stuff. Now I probably want to make like a selection so that I can get the right the right amount of texture. Now I have to pick like a different brush, probably something like that. And now it's the same thing, but you see the difference there now, like in terms of like how real that may look. Like I would probably get like an actual
A little bit more noise in the shape.
More noise in the shape to kind of create that stuff. I will begin to probably like grab like some more kind of like noisy texture, like this kind of thing.
Yeah, okay.
You know, like a good go-to of mine is like I think it's the flat texture. No, where is it? I had this one brush that that made that for me. Very like it's very Jamie Jones kind of thing. Oh, this kind of works actually too. See, like that. And then I'd have to kind of separate it and light it so that way I can create all that stuff. So things that tend to be a little bit more noisy, you know what I mean? Like I can take that brush and then maybe kind of paint over it, and you know what I mean? So usually you just get more noise. And that's usually all like something realistic is anyway. And so there's just more grainy texture. Like if you zoom in like right here, like if I were to take a snippet of that, I'll do it right now. Like all realism is just like how you kind of indicate noise over distance, in my opinion. So I have that one right there. And I have this one right here. Right? You can look, it's like the same thing, right? But just one is like less contrasty, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so then you can do that manually. So if I was interpreting that kind of noise, like normally I would just like, you know, sample the color and maybe kind of simplify it and that kind of stuff. You know, maybe get like a little bit of that green in there and then kind of like call it a day. But the problem is that like the edges, like the edge quality right now is like too sharp compared to that. It's like very, very blurry. It's supposed to be because obviously like it's distance over time. Like you can't see all the hard edges. So normally I'd have to like go in and somehow manually create that noise. So that means I'd have to kind of make a layer for it. And then, so normally I'd probably go in there and, let's see. Yeah. So normally I'd probably go in there and maybe get like a smaller brush, something like that. And I want to kind of like create like that noise there, but maybe like less intense or something like that. So you use something like that. Maybe I go in there and I blur it a little bit. Probably motion blur, I guess. Oh, not too much. All right, you see what's happening now? Like now, like little by little.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm kind of
it's
like
the same noise.
Yeah, it's the same thing. And now I would go in there and probably like actually like get a brush and see how much I can get away with before I have to do it. So like nothing really like changes. It's just like there's just more noise. There's just more and more like stuff. I have to go in there and like kind of sample and like create the right little hints of like detail and stuff like that. But again, like this wouldn't work because there's not much noise in there. So I have to use a brush that has a lot more that kind of right frequency and noise, which is really, really hard to do because not every brush is going to give you the same result. Or it's hard to find a brush that will create that right hint of noise that helps the piece kind of like read correctly. So that's why like if I'm ever painting something realistic, I'll always put on color dynamics for myself. So I'll always turn on like this and then apply per tip. So that way like whatever I'm painting is creating that little bit of noise like in there that will help it kind of like feel real over time. And then eventually I have to go in there and put more texture, all this kind of stuff, like start using more like things that are kind of more like spread out. So a good example would be something like this. This is a good brush for overall like noise and whatnot. And that's how I kind of like get that realistic stuff over time, you know what I mean? So yeah, once you learn like ways to kind of like create that texture, all right, coming. Once you learn to create that little bit of texture, then I think that's when you start to like really like figure some things out. So, dropping knowledge.
Yeah, some people are gonna watch this back and be like, "Oh my god, that was a gem."
Probably not. You don't watch this shit. I'm at 6 going strong, baby. 6 people going strong. But
oh yeah, 58 subscribers though.
This is true. I guess I probably shouldn't care about. Well, I don't care anyway. But like, it doesn't matter who's there live. But I guess what people are watching later on. Maybe?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I have no idea what the numbers are for looting for.
Well, here's what happens. Did you ever fill out those tags? Remember the tags page I showed you
On what? Ustream?
on YouTube? No, we were setting up the live stream, and I told you like these are the tags that'll show up.
Do I have to do that each time or no?
No, you do it once. Did you set it up that one time?
I think I did.
We
Yeah.
put that on pause. I said you should do that on your own.
I think I may have. I'll check. I'll check after this. My friend.
All right, well, double check that because what happens is, your videos will show up in the recommendeds of folks that watch a lot of YouTube artists. So that's a big way for you to start gaining your following piece by piece.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Then I will check that
All
out.
right, man.
But
Go
in
get
the
your
meantime,
dinner.
as long as it helps somebody, but I'm cool. All right, I'll save this as call it studies. I'm gonna save it in the Twitch folder actually. Twitch folder, PSDs, studies. Cool. All right, man. Thanks for coming by, dude. Appreciate it. Thanks for talking some Blender with me. And yeah, I'll see you later. And then I'll probably be on either Thursday or Friday. I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Get some feedback.
Sounds good.
All right,
Have a
man.
great night.
Peace. Lates.
Peace.